Box of ideas. A book of poems containing transcriptions of poets introducing their work at poetry readings. A book of poems written using annotations found in other books of poems. A book of poems called An Introduction to Zen Poetry. It consists of scanned images of the blank inside front pages of books about Zen poetry. A book of poems called Copyright. The book is blank and comes with a pencil that has copyright Stephen Emmerson etched onto the side of it. There was also a card explaining that the pencil should be used to write poems in the book, and that all poems written as such will be held under copyright Stephen Emmerson. A book of poems called Unlucky. Each page is made up of the 13th line of the 13th page of 169 books. Each page is numbered 13. A book of poems created using a prepared typewriter. A book of poems containing only the titles of poems. A book of poems written through a psychic medium. A book of poems written by cats walking on keyboards. A book of poems made out of the Communist Manifesto. Each page is put through a different process of work. Sanding, painting, washing, soldering, etc. The pages are scanned and presented as visual poems. A book of poems consisting of poets' names written on magic squares to produce sigils. A book of poems consisting only of the poem Destruction by Charles Baudelaire. Each page shows the remains of the poem after various forms of destruction. A book of poems that is a list of poets that can drive and a list of poems that can't. A book of poems called Radio Waves. The book is created by switching through radio stations and writing down the first phrase you hear on each channel. A book of poems called Ant Song, in which a translation of Rimbaud's poem Voyelles is crawled upon by ants. A 30-minute video is taken of the process, and for each 30 seconds of the video, the words that the ants crawl on are transcribed, thus creating a series of new poems. A book of poems written by a list of subscribers. An advertisement is issued asking people to sign up for 1 year's worth of mail art poems. Subscription is £12. Every month a new poem is sent. The first poem is a blank sheet of paper that has been screwed into a ball and flattened out again. A note is included asking the subscribers to reply. Once the replies have been received and collated and photocopied, they are sent out to the other subscribers on the list, as if in answer to their replies. They are in turn asked to reply, and their replies are again sent to each other. This continues for the remainder of the subscription. The results are then published in an anthology. A book of poems called Vito did it first. The book is composed of descriptions of ideas for artworks that turn out to have already been made or performed by Vito Acconci. For example, I wanted to follow random people around the city and take notes of what they did and when, but Vito did it first. A book of poems called You Can't Eat Poetry. The title is printed on strips of rice paper and placed inside a perspex box. 5 slugs are also placed into the box and begin to eat the rice paper. Photographs are taken and presented as a series of visual poems. A book of poems containing pages from books by writers who share the same name as poets, but who are not themselves poets. For example, The poet Robert Grenier shares his name with Robert Grenier, author of Customer Satisfaction Through Total Quality Assurance. The pages are chosen by adding the first letter of their first and last names together. For instance, R, 18, plus G, 7, equals 25. A book of poems as physical translation. It contains a sealed bag of spores in a syringe. Instructions. Choose a paperback book of foreign language poems and wrap 3 elastic bands around it. 1 an inch or so from the bottom, 1 in the middle, and 1 an inch or so from the top. Immerse it in water overnight. The book will expand. Allow it to drain for a while. Inject the mushroom spores into and around the edges of the book. Leave in a temperate area of dappled light. Spray every few days with water. Within a few weeks, the mushrooms will appear. The mushrooms are the translation. A book of poems in the form of a pharmacological experiment. 10 volunteers are selected and sent a bottle of placebo pills and instructed to take one every day at lunchtime for 14 days. On the 15th day, they must write as many poems as they can over a 24-hour period. The resulting text should be sent back to the address on the bottle of pills. These texts are then collated and published as a book of poems called The Experiment. A book of poems made entirely out of footnotes. A book of one-word poems made up from misspelt words received in text messages. A book of poems made up of images of sound waves created by poets reading their work. A book of poems called Mirrors, which is made up of antonymical versions of well-known poems. A book of poems written by converting the selected poems of Emily Dickinson into musical notation using the software available at https:/p22.com music font. The words from 52 Dickinson poems are assigned to the white keys of the piano, and the second words from 36 poems are assigned to the black keys. The musical notation created by the software is then played on a piano, and the words assigned to each note are played and written down to create new work. A book of poems created by noting down the first thing that they said to you every day for a year. A book of poems made up of synopsis of other books of poems. A book of poems composed of rejection letters received after submitting this sentence as a poem to various magazines. Thank you.